Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the laser cut parts replacement of the rudder. So this is, it's section 7 in the instruction booklet, and we are taking apart the rudder to get the pieces we need. Now, this first video in the rudder laser cut part replacement series is just me taking apart the old rudder. And I will share some tips along the way, and at the very end I will kind of give you my advice on what I would do in the future, because I went through a lot of work. This video is like 20 minutes long, and it's just me taking this thing apart. And there is a much simpler way to do it. And I kind of figured that out at about minute 16 of this video. I finally figured it out because I'm a little dense, but I will share that with you. So this is the rudder, and you need a couple of pieces off of it, because the replacement parts, they don't send a couple of the pieces. So the first thing that they don't send is the nut plates for the big bearing things, how it hooks into the vertical stabilizer, those bearings. So the nut plates for those they don't send. They don't send the weight or the screws or the nut plate or the backer piece for the weight up towards the top. When I originally got all the parts, the elevator, the two elevator counterweight things were together, and I didn't look inside them. They were kind of sandwiched together, and so I assumed that I needed that piece where the weight was attached to the rudder, and I assumed that I needed the top part of the rudder, and so that's why you see me kind of taking those out, because I didn't know that I had them in my list of things. There was so many things in that bag. I missed it, and I didn't do an inventory on the laser cut replacement parts because they didn't send like an inventory like they normally do. It was in my order for the laser cut parts, and I didn't go up to the computer and print off that list. I just made an assumption, and that was a mistake on my part. Looking back on it, I didn't have to do any of this work, because the only thing I really needed out of it was the weight out of that front part of where I'm working at now. But hey, you do see me taking apart a rudder. So one tip though, the pull rivets, or the blind rivets that hold the two front edges of the rudder together, they are not the easiest things in the world to drill out. Now I have it at like 1,000 times speed, so it looks like it's really easy. It is not easy. And there's me taking out that a piece. So I need those from all three sections. And I also made the assumption that I needed the backer plates, which I did not. Those actually came in the replacement parts too. So I pulled all of that apart and really didn't need to. So drilling out those pop rivets is difficult because there's like a metal piece that kind of pulls in the middle of them, and so when you're drilling out, when it hits that little ball that's in the back, it kind of goes off to one side, and it is nearly impossible to get those suckers out straight. I mean, it's a pain in the butt, but you can do it. Usually you don't see me do it here, but later on, I kind of learned my lesson. If you use the smaller drill bit and you drill out the middle first, and then you use the bigger drill bit and drill out the head of those pop rivets, it will come apart. So just FYI, that's an easier way to do that. But long story short, you don't really need to do that for the rudder. The rudder is you only need a few parts, and I went through a lot of work that I didn't need to do. So this is me just drilling out all of the rivets hooked to the spar for a few reasons. There's a bunch of stuff on that bottom section that you need to get out. So you need like the, what's it called? The harness and the things that the fairing hooks onto. I forget what those pieces are called, but those have to come off, and the horn, the rudder horn, you also have to get and take care of. Let me get you the correct names of those things here real quick. So you have the, what is it? The rudder horn, the horn brace, and then you have the attach strip. They call them attach strips, the R00918 attach strips. And here's the problem with the attach strips. Well, I'll explain it later in this video, so I'm not going to explain it now. Then you also have the tie clip thing that holds the wires. You got to get that off. It's another pop rivet that holds it on, so it's not that fun to get off. And it's plastic, so when it moves, it kind of messes it up, but that's okay. But you don't need, anyways, I got the reinforcement plates in the laser cut parts replacement order. I had missed those because they were also sandwiched in between those two pieces of the elevator end things. So that was fun. So I was looking, it's like, where are they? Where are they? No, they're not here. And then I go take that apart. I'm like, oh, there they are. Amazing. I did all that work for nothing. Great. Outstanding. So let me give you a couple of jokes. Okay. So first joke is, why did the bed wear a disguise? It was undercover. Oh my goodness. So how do ghosts stay in shape? They exorcise. Exorcise. Here's my favorite, and this will be the last one. So how did Vikings communicate with one another? By Norse code. Oh, I crack myself up sometimes. Gotta love jokes. And I am using the hammer and the punch there because a lot of the stuff you don't really need the piece behind it. You just need the piece you're working on. So once you have the top drilled out, you can kind of pound on it and it's fine. And that rudder horn is pretty thick, so you can't mess it up too bad. And that's me just working on getting those things out. All of this I would have had to have done anyway. You got to get the rudder horn and the horn brace. All of those things have to come off. There, I finally got the spar out, and you'll see me work on the spar a little bit. And there's the horn brace. And then I pull the nut plates off of the spar, keep them, and then I keep basically a pile going. And I didn't really need to do this, but I assumed I needed that piece, so I was drilling it out, trying to make sure I had it and could reuse it, which I didn't need to. And then I go back thinking I needed the backer plates, but I didn't need those. But they do come out pretty easy. So if you didn't order those, getting those backer plates off of the spar is relatively simple. I mean, it's a time-consuming task, but a simple task nonetheless. So yeah. And then you get the middle one and the bottom one after that. Like I said, those come out pretty easy. So, but make sure when you do get your laser cut replacement parts, you check inside all of the pieces. When they do put the elevator parts kind of together, they do have things inside those. So just make sure you pay attention to that because they're there. And then it'll save you a whole bunch of time and effort and energy on, and you won't have to do all of this. So a lot of work went into taking that stuff apart, and it didn't need to. And I was kind of upset at myself after the fact, but glad that I did it. It was definitely an experience, learning experience. So that was good, I guess. And you get pretty good at drilling out rivets, so not too bad. And then this, I believe, is the next day, and I'm trying to get out those, oh, what are they called? I forget what they are, but that's the drill I'm using there, is the number 30 12-inch drill from Drills and Cutters. That thing comes in so handy with the extra length there. It's kind of nice. But again, didn't need to do it, but glad I did have that available and handy. And so what are they called? The shear clips is what they're called. So I'm trying to get the shear clips out of there. And you don't need to do that because those come in the replacement part things too, but they were also inside the elevator tips that were together that I didn't look because I'm an idiot. But I did use Drills and Cutters to get all of my drills. You order them online; they're really inexpensive, and they have the Cobalt jobber drills, all of the ones that you possibly want, and you can get any number of them that you want. So it works out really, really well. So I highly recommend them. They do not sponsor me, by the way, so don't know if I need to make that disclaimer or not, but they don't. And then you see me just tear into that rudder. I had it up to this point. I was like, this is going to be a nightmare. And so I grab out my metal shears. I just start cutting into that thing. And again, if you pay attention and when you do your inventory, make sure you open everything up. You don't have to do that. So just make sure you know what you're doing before you start. And that just kind of is how it works. You make mistakes, you learn from them, and then you move on. But I was able to get all of those shear clips out, and relatively unscathed. So that was kind of nice.
Okay, well, that worked a lot better. Didn't screw up the holes.
Yeah, so it is very easily to screw up those holes when you're drilling those things out. And then I just kind of skip ahead. I didn't think you needed to see me do 40 of those things. So here I am just cutting the pieces out, and then you trim it up.
That is obviously bad. So drilling pop rivets out is dangerous because of that ball in there. It slips off. Jerks. Jerks, 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 jerks!
And I did modify those dikes, so I ground off the back end. And if you couldn't tell, I was a little bit peeved at that particular point in time. I was rather relieved when I did find the actual parts that had come in the replacement kit, so that was kind of nice. But at this point, I didn't know, and I was upset figuring, oh crap, now I'm going to have to order new stuff, and it was just ugly. And this is the very bottom of the rudder, and it has the what do they call it? The bottom rib that's that bottom rib of the rudder, but it has the attached strips that are in that you use um, to connect the what's it called, the fairing, the bottom rudder fairing. And just so you know, the only thing you really, if you get all of the replacement parts from um, uh, vans for the rudder, I'll show you an image here real quick. What you do is you just basically cut down on that red line and cut across, and you just throw basically the whole rudder away. And then once you've take it on your bandsaw and you just cut that area out, because the only things you need to keep are the green circled areas there in that image. So much, much, much easier to do it that way. But again, hindsight's 2020, and hopefully you guys will gain something out of that. And you don't have to do what I had to do there. But you do have to take off those attached strips.
Now you might be saying, why didn't you just take off the nut plates? That's all you really need. But that is not all you really need from these pieces. Because I had put the nut plates on, which match up to the fairing that has the light on it under the rudder, these holes were drilled to match that fairing exactly. And so I need to match up these holes the same way, but the new ones only come with the holes drilled in the top, none of the holes drilled in the bottom. And so I'm going to have to put this on there to mark where I need to drill holes. So that is why I am taking these off of all the other pieces, because I am going to need to keep these things and match them up to the new ones. So that's why I'm going through this pain in the butt of actually removing them from the skin. So now you know why.
So yeah, that's the reason why. You're gonna have to, it's much easier to get the nut plates out when it's off, but it's also because if you've already drilled those holes into that bottom rudder fairing, those were all marked by measurements basically. And so if you want them to line up to the correct holes in your rudder fairing, you have to make sure the holes in that little attached strip are in the same exact spot. And so what you need to do is just set it on your new, the attached strip, set the new one, the old one on top of the new one, and mark them with your pen so you drill the holes in the same spot. So that's why I went through all the trouble of actually removing those attached strips. And it wasn't that difficult. And you have to kind of disassemble that whole section anyway, because you need that horn brace as well. And the horn brace comes out pretty easy. And looking back on it, I believe I'm pretty sure I drilled out the horn brace. I'm not sure. We'll see here in the video if I did that or not. I think I got a new horn brace in the whole kit, so I didn't need that one particular piece. And then I did use, I bought some Nipex pliers, and they work really, really well because they're perfectly flat, and it's even pressure, so it doesn't mar up your stuff. And so I use those to kind of hold on to the things the nut plates as I'm drilling out the other side, because the nut plates, the rivet kind of gets stuck in there, and you have to kind of drill it out a little bit. But those Nipex pliers are pretty awesome, so just FYI. Again, not sponsored by them either, but I would love to be Nipex pliers. If you want to send me a bunch of tools, I will take them. So.
Okay. So Here's my rudder pile. And I have to we got 16 of those bad boys. Okay, so rudder. Everything except for the skins, because my one skin came all jacked up, so. But everything else, got it. See ya.